Imagínate being at the San Diego Embarcadero. I don't know how to say that in English. Embarcadero.
Sabrosura pa' ti que.
Imagínate being at the San Diego Embarcadero Marina Park. I am standing at the grand tasting. This is part of the San Diego Food and Wine Festival, and I am about to do something that feels a little bit brave. Bueno, real talk. When I got invited to go to this festival, lo primero que pensé es así como que, ¿yo? ¿Por? O sea, se me hizo súper raro porque I wasn't invited to the coffee festival, but I was invited to the wine festival. I don't drink. So, bueno, dije, pues, I guess let's go. And then, la verdad, lo que pasó fue que my external mics did not work. And the problem is that I didn't realize they were not working until I got home and I started going through the footage. And it was just not the business. There was no way for me to know at the time unless I tested, which I didn't because I was trusting that the mics were working. This is what happens when you do stuff Mercury retrograde. Pero what you're going to hear is literally the audio coming from my iPhone 16 audio. That's it. This little handy dandy device. It actually did pretty good. I'm impressed. Y bueno, después me acordé what I actually teach my clients all the time. As I was doubting going into this festival, as I was doubting even the invitation, I thought about it and I remembered how important it is your presence in spaces. And when you get the invitation, even if you feel out of place, even if you feel like you don't belong, that's an opportunity for you to create evidence within to show up differently, to show up like you do belong. Y bueno, this festival celebrates something I actually do care deeply about. Not wine, but the cross-border multicultural food scene that we have in San Diego and Baja. It's really cool. It's nothing I've ever seen anywhere, and I've traveled all over the country where you see literally the combination and the very cool embrace of multicultures that translates into multicultural food. And it's so good. And not just the Mexico, San Diego, or Mexico, United States border, but also the various other cultures that live in San Diego. Asian influences, we have Latino chefs, BIPOC voices, the two countries merging on top of other countries, and all of it in one table, one big festival style table. So, what I wanted to find out was as I worked within myself and I was like, all right, you got invited. That means that there's space for you. Let's go. Then I wanted to figure out what does it look like to experience the festival on my terms? What does it look like to experience and celebrate culture without alcohol? What does it look like to create content without perfect equipment? Which I didn't know at the time, but that's what ended up happening. And what does it look like to be anchored in myself? Because they only gave me one entrance. And so I couldn't bring anyone to help me or to be with. I literally had to enjoy this by myself. And I traveled by myself for many, many years when I was in corporate and even before, because you've heard me talk about this, how my mom was a flight attendant and she would always, since I was very young, put me on planes and be like, off you go visit your dad. And so I've traveled by myself and done a lot of things by myself. So I have no problem with that. But a wine festival is kind of like, just from a societal expectation, to see someone by themselves is like, ay, pobrecita, no? Like, it was just an interesting internal dialogue that came upon me. Pero bueno, al final de cuentas, I went by myself with my two iPhones. So I have the 15 and I have the 16. So because the 16 has a better camera, that's the one that I used for my recordings. Because I thought about this ahead of time and I thought, bueno, if I'm going to be by myself, I want to have the least amount of equipment possible, which means a little set of external mics and a tiny camera, which is a camera from my iPhone 16, which is a marvelous camera. It's a great camera. It's obviously not a professional camera, but it records in 4K. Listen. So I wanted to be as compact as possible. And I also didn't have a lot of time because I already had other plans for that day later. But we did it. We arrived. I got to talk to chefs. I got to discover non alcoholic options that people were overlooking. I got to taste Baja in San Diego. I got to feel the music and I got to remind myself that I belong. Because sometimes we may expect to feel like we need to fit in immediately. Pero al final de cuentas, truly belonging is when we give ourselves permission to have the courage to show up to places just as we are. Then we feel like we belong. So I was there and I recorded it all and perfect audio and everything. I didn't know at the time. Pero I just gave myself permission to be unpolished and with my phone. And even I got overlooked in some instances because I looked like, in fact, one chef was like, "Are you an influencer?" And I was like, "No, I'm a podcaster." What do you mean? Which my team would be like, "Well, in your own way, you're an influencer." But I'm like, "No, bro. Like I have a whole media company, like." And he looked at my tripod and my phone and was like, okay. And that was a moment when I had to anchor myself to be like, I chose to bring a very compact equipment and arguably so, it's a really solid one. So, no, I am here to interview you, sir. So, as I arrived, I wanted to hear from the chefs themselves. Obviously, I got there as media, you're invited early. So, the festival opened at 11. You were allowed to come in between 10:30 and 10:45. Now, fun fact, something that happened talk about the universe God testing you to make sure that you're anchored in your truth and your power and in yourself, because I was already like, oh, voy a ir by myself. It's an alcohol, like a wine festival. Pero I was like self-coaching myself to be like, I belong here and I need to take up space, etc., no? Entonces, when I get there, you check in at a media booth, a separate place, and they gave me one bracelet. And I noticed that everyone else was getting two bracelets. Pero it was kind of like the perfect storm. When I went to check in, the person checking me in was being pulled. Somebody else was talking to her, and it was, festivals are chaotic and they're like events in general, they're chaotic in their own way. And so somebody else was talking to her, and so she gave me the one bracelet and she was about to give me the other one, but she didn't. She was like, "You're good with that one," and then sent me on my way. And so I went all the way in the festival to the very end. I wanted to go into the VIP lounge, and I didn't have the bracelet that would let me in. I had to walk back, which, they were like, it wasn't like super long walk, but it was a pretty large festival. And I laughed during the time as it happened because the security people at the VIP pavilion, they were like, "Look, I believe you. I do believe you that you're media, but you do need the bracelet because if somebody finds you in there without it, then we're the ones that will get in trouble." And so I was like, "No worries. I'll go get my bracelet." And so I went and I was like, "Hey, I think you forgot to give me the media one." And she was super apologetic, gave it to me, went back. It was fine. But I think thinking about it as I was walking back, I kept reminding myself, you belong, even though you're getting tested in some way. And I wonder if that has happened to you, where you kind of like are put in a situation where you already feel like this is not my space, and then things happen. And I think what I learned was, instead of digging my heels into the ground and being like, "Oh, I knew it," I flipped it. And I was like, "No, I do. I do belong here and I do need to go back and ask for what I need and then return and take up even more space. So I hung out in the VIP room for a long time. I interviewed multiple chefs in there because I needed to take up space there. So I went on and I heard from the chefs and I asked them about their heritage, their craft, how it felt about them being in this super huge festival. And here they are.
Hola Omar, ¿cómo estás?
Muy bien, gracias.
Gusto en verte otra vez.
Gracias igualmente.
Cuéntanos de Wormwood.
Wormwood es un restaurante de aquí de San Diego, donde manejamos una cocina francesa con un twist de Baja California y todos los ingredientes pues, locales, orgánicos y pues de temporada más que nada.
Y cuéntanos qué nos estás ofreciendo.
Es un short rib con una demi-glace de guayaba, que en inglés se llama pineapple guava, que es local de aquí de San Diego, producto de temporada y con una ensalada también de temporada.
¿Y cómo fue la transición de México hacia acá, de tu cocina?
Pues fue difícil, ¿no? En el principio, pero pues con el tiempo aprendiendo, se tomó y pues muy contento por este lado y pues siguiendo haciendo lo que me encanta, ¿no?
¿Y ves alguna diferencia de algo que exista? ¿Cultural, tal vez?
Sí, hay una diferencia cultural, ¿no? Que ahí fue el problema para la adaptación, pero pues simplemente pues, rompiendo esa barrera, pues ya, al final, digo, hacemos, todos los que trabajamos en esto, nos gusta, nos encanta, entonces pues tenemos ese terreno común, ¿no?
Sí, claro. How do you bring your culture into this side?
I mean, we always say this. We learned, because it's true, we learned how to cook over here, or I did. I didn't really learn from my grandma or anything like that. But we used the techniques and the foundations of how to build sauces, how to build dishes through the French technique, because that's what we learned. And then we just put memories on top of that, you know? So it's you remember having that buñuelo for Christmas, and you remember those things that to you is familiar, and you want to put out those stories, and then where do you grab from? You grab from the techniques that you started with, you know? So it doesn't always have to come from actually learning from your grandma, but you could still put out those memories if you're learning somewhere else.
Do you go ask family now about the recetas?
Sometimes, my grandma has a really good carne con chile.
Uy, sí.
Yeah, and I've always asked, and it's always pues le pongo ese polvo.
Un poquito de esto y un poquito de...
You know, that's the hard part of learning.
Es que you have to be in the kitchen with her.
Yeah, exactly.
Y luego?
Y pues nomás, pues sí, me da la receta, but it's not the same.
Right.
Your grandma, that's it. That's the hard part about learning through Mexicans, really.
Yeah.
It's always like that.
Yeah.
Pues tienes el sazón o no lo tienes, si le echas o no le echas. But when you learn over here, you learn techniques and stuff like that, you know? I've never worked for a fine dining Mexican chef, so I don't know if I could say the same about them. But I think that the French, I think it's a great place to learn from, because there's actually foundations of how to build things. It's not just una pizca.
Claro,
you know? But that's how it happened for me, at least, and for this whole team. We all just kind of give ideas. We all start from somewhere. That's usually something that we ate, something we remember, and then we're just put on garlic shallots, little white wine, start building things on top of it. Next thing you know, you have a barbacoa, but we started with a very different foundation.
What is your hope every night when you serve that people get from the food?
Well, I mean, for us, it's always when... I don't know, I always remember that I had this meal at an Indian place one time in Vancouver, and I'm going to bring it back.
Yeah.
But I just remember eating a curry and feeling like my grandma had made it for me. I don't have any
Se sentía el amor.
So it's always that. It's whether you're Mexican or not, we do hope to bring that nostalgic feeling. And if we can do that to one person a night, I mean, it feels like we did it, you know?
El plato que me recuerda a casa, yo creo que van a ser siempre las albóndigas.
Uy, cuéntame más.
Pues unas albóndigas rellenitas de huevo duro con su arrocito y un molito, un coloradito, una salsita entomatada, ¿no?
¿A quién te recuerdan?
Pues recuerdan a casa, ¿no? Recuerdan los guisos rápidos de casa que a veces tienen que hacer para alimentar a toda la tropa,
claro.
¿no? Entonces, pues eso.
Si tu niño interior te viera hoy aquí, ¿qué diría?
Lo lograste.
¿Sí?
Yo creo que sí. Es ser chef, tener una estrella. lograr abrir un restaurante, mantenerlo, poder formar otros cocineros, pues era una meta, ¿no? Obviamente ser papá, tener a mis hijos. Entonces, el hecho de que hoy a mis 42, que cumplí ayer,
¡Felicidades!
gracias, pues, lo tenga todo, ¿no? Me considero una persona muy afortunada. Entonces yo creo que mi niño diría, lo lograste, ¿no?
Bien hecho.
Yo a lo mejor no tan rápido, no sé, pero sí, o sea, voy por buen camino, ¿no?
¿Qué es lo más satisfactorio que encuentras en tu cocina?
Para mí es que al final cocino para mis clientes, o sea, cocino para la gente. No cocino para mí, no cocino para mi ego, no cocino para que se vea bonito, sino sí busco en que el comensal se lleve una gran experiencia, porque al final pues él es el que se va a comer la comida, él es el que está pagando por la comida. Entonces pues es lo que me gusta, y ver esas caras de wow, de satisfacción, de alegría. A veces sacar una lágrima de nostalgia también es padre.
Ay, sí.
¿No? Entonces pues es eso, sí, o sea, justo hoy platicaba con mi gerente porque nos desmadrugamos para venir acá.
Claro.
El hecho de que no me pese, ¿no? El levantarme a las 6, 7 de la mañana para venir a un evento porque me gusta, ¿no?
Y cocinar.
Y cocinar, exacto, ¿no? Pero porque pues hago lo que me gusta y creo que soy afortunado de poderlo hacer desde un inicio.
¿Qué le dirías a los chefs que están empezando?
A los chefs que están empezando les diría que disfruten el viaje y no solo estén enfocados en el destino. Que hay que cocinar, hay que trabajar para otros chefs, hay que aprender mucho y nunca vas a parar de aprender. Y el proceso es tan importante como la meta, porque en ese proceso de trabajar con otros chefs en otros restaurantes vas a hacer relaciones, te vas a conectar con otros cocineros que en su momento también van a ser chefs, vas a conectarte con proveedores que en algún momento van a ser tus proveedores, y que si ven que eres un buen empleado, que si ven que tú como jefe de cocina les pagas a tiempo, les cuidas el negocio, cuando te toque a ti abrir, pues te van a extender tus líneas de crédito, te van a llevar, ¿no? Entonces yo creo eso, mucha gente se enfoca, y más hoy en día que toda la vida es un swipe, ¿no? Se enfocan en quiero ser chef.
Claro.
Y la verdad es que no cambio por nada mis tiempos de cocinero pelando papas y ahí haciendo las cosas que nadie quiere hacer, ¿no?
Claro.
Entonces ha sido un camino que yo he disfrutado.
Y bueno, la verdad, el poder tener esa oportunidad, to have this opportunity to ask questions from chefs, they showed me the heart of the festival. And they also showed me what I wanted to see, which was options for people like me who want the full experience without the alcohol. It was a lot of fun because what it turns out is that I got more than I expected. I went with an open mind, but having gone to wine tastings and to different places that are focused on the wine and food, but mainly the wine, because you pair it, there's like this whole culture of pairing. I had this open mind, but in a way I had this expectation of like, ay, me voy a aburrir, ¿no? But no, it was so much fun. I had so much fun.
So tepache, it comes from fermented pineapple. It's condensed. It's really good for you. It has probiotics.
Okay.
We have 4 flavors. We have the mango chili, we have the hibiscus, we have grapefruit, and we have mandarina.
So typically it's a wine base, but it's a spritz, and we do a non-alcoholic version so that everybody can partake in the fun.
And so you can still enjoy.
Yep, you can
Okay.
find it in most stores, even your local Trader Joe's. So yeah, Bevmo.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Hi, so I'm Andrea, the founder of Wild Hive Hot Honey. And so these are brand new hot honeys. We're out of Costa Mesa, California. So there's 3 different flavors. The first flavor is going to be chili steam. That's like an OG hot honey. So it's going to be garlic. I'm sorry, not garlic. It's going to be honey, habanero, and apple cider vinegar. This one, that's our base. So all 3 share that base. And then garlic is one of my favorites. Not to play favorites with my children, but that one has same main ingredients, and then just garlic infused to it. And the last one is citrus. So
Wow.
all same ingredients, but citrus peel coming from oranges. There we are.
Oh. Is it your honey?
Yeah, this is my brand. So I work with partners to get the honey. we're true sourced certified, so we know exactly where the honey is coming from. All of the ingredients, like I mentioned, there's no BS, no preservatives, shelf stable, really fun. And compared to different hot honeys, this one's super versatile, so you can cook with it, and sky's the limit.
So, what did I learn when I went to this food and wine festival? Bi-national food and wine festival without drinking. Well, I learned that our culture, is not in the wine glass. It's in the stories that we tell. I loved learning from Chef Roberto's dedication to Valle. I really enjoyed my conversation with Chef Dante and his creativity at Two Ducks. I didn't get an opportunity to interview his brother, but even with Dante's conversation was a lot of fun to see even the contrast from each different chef, because also Chef Omar and his vision at Wormwood and the food that we got from each one is so different, and how each one of them embraces their culture in their own way. I also learned there are incredible non-alcoholic options, and we just have to look for them, especially now. Like Spritz El Conte, that was fun. I'm not a big spritz type of person, but I tried them and they gave me the two. So they have the same version that they have in alcohol, they have it non-alcoholic, which is amazing. I was surprised. I also tried tepache, which has probiotics. It tastes so good. It was a great drink to have in the middle of the day when we actually didn't have that much sun that day, but it got warm. And I got to learn from Wild Hive honey, and I got to learn that it's a brand from Costa Mesa, like right around the corner. Y al final de cuentas, pues las experiencias don't have to compromise who you are. Y al final de cuentas, aprendí que when you show up anchored in yourself and your truth and your power and who you are, con technical difficulties, without alcohol, al final de cuentas, you still belong. Y mi inner niña, she wanted to go to this festival. She wanted to taste the food of her region. She wanted to hear the stories of these renowned chefs that are so celebrated, and obviously taste food. But she wanted to also belong in a space that celebrates her culture, and that was amazing. And she got to do it. All of this without a perfect equipment, without drinking any wine, and I didn't have to perform belonging. I had to make a decision to bring joy within me and to even face when I was offered many times. I would walk by booths and I wanted to see what they were offering, because you never know. They might have an non-alcoholic option, and I would say, oh, I don't drink alcohol. And there was a point when one woman was like, okay. And it was probably one of those instances where the person doesn't realize their face gave me the reaction. And so I was going to keep going. And I looked back and I said, I know you're probably thinking I'm in the worst place for someone who doesn't drink. And she paused and she was like, oh my gosh, like almost didn't expect my response, because I would guess that she didn't realize her facial reaction. And she was like, no, I respect that. It's totally fine. I just don't have anything to offer you. And it made me laugh, because many years ago, I would have been like, oh my gosh, le caí mal, or, she's judging me for not drinking. Pero people's expectations don't rule my choices, and how I'm anchored in myself and my truth and my power and my well-being is connected to me, y no le tengo que dar explicaciones a nadie. Porque al final de cuentas, we choose to show up, and let's show up anyway. So if you're first gen, if you're a high achieving woman who's tired of performing for the rest of us, if you're ready to honor your inner niña, let's do it together. That's my work. That's what I do. Let's find that anchor within yourself. Let's get you certain of who you are. and let's stay connected. But I hope you enjoy this quick recap of the San Diego Wine and Food Festival. That was a lot of fun. And I will attest to say there were options. That school, there was a whole space. They had a lot of como different installations, and that school is the one that had the most non-alcoholic options. So I was pleased and glad, and I left with a happy heart and a full belly. And I will see you next time. Thank you for being here. Sigue brillando.
Sabrosura pa' ti que